What's going on, everyone? It's Logan, the drunk metalhead here, doing a response video to a kind of fun thread that I have seen throughout these YouTube parts. It's 10 terrible songs on amazing albums. And I think why it's so fun is it really is a lot more unique. Like, everyone has like terrible albums across the board. Like, the previous thread that, was the one before this kind of popped up was 10 albums worse than Saint Anger. And I feel like there's almost like a more common consensus on, in the metal genre, what are the shitty albums everyone can pan, and most people are aware of what albums by what bands, are just not well liked by the community as a whole. There were definitely a couple really cool and fun response videos that I saw, but for the most part, they were all like pretty, not surprising, straight and narrow up the center of what I was expecting. But with the responses I'm seeing for this thread, a lot of takes that I would definitely say are hot, spicy even, takes that have triggered me. And if that's not good, fun content to watch, I don't know what is. So, I definitely wanted to join in on that. But first, let's get this out of the way. I'm drinking Swell Rider by D9 Brewing, Session IPA. Want to be, have kind of a clear thought process during this. So, thank you for the Session D9. And in the background, we're jamming to Pelican. This is their album, The Fire in Our Throats Will Beckon the Thaw. I figured post-metal would be a good kind of soundtrack to this discussion. So, let's get into it. Alright, so first off, I have to come to the defense of one of the songs that I've seen at least 3 or 4 people put on their list of terrible songs that brings down an album. And it's one of the things that triggered me about some of these video responses. And I'm talking about fucking Dawn Patrol. That's right, all you people hating on Dawn Patrol, I don't get it. I love Dawn Patrol. I think it is one of the top 3 songs on this album. Like, for me, Tornado of Souls, Holy Wars, Dawn Patrol. That's how I rank it. And let me defend it real quick. I, first off, love the bass line. My man Dave, when it comes to playing bass, not with doing other things, but that's just a fun fucking bass line. I really enjoy it. And then the lyrics are so vivid, and I can see it. I think it's the perfect track to kind of take you down off that high from Tornado of Souls and will just coax you into the madness that is the closing of Rust in Peace, Polaris, And to me, the subject that they're talking about in Dawn Patrol, of just humanity lives their life as moles or whatever, that ties directly into the title track, Rust in Peace. I just think it works perfectly where it is in the context of the album and just overall as a song. So this is one of the main reasons I'm making this whole response video, just so I can defend Dawn Patrol as a good song. Dave sounds fucking weird, but it's the end of the world. Humanity is gone. He's just, I don't know, echoing that through his weird spoken Dave vocals. But one of my favorite albums of all time, and Dawn Patrol is definitely one of the reasons. And also, people are okay with the weird ass vocals in Five Magics, Give me alchemy, give me sorcery. But then have issues with the vocals in Dawn Patrol. Alright, now on to the actual list. So the first 3 bands I'm going to talk about are definitely the biggest in metal. And I feel like because of that, everyone has that one album by them which is like almost perfect, but is just taken down by like a song or two, you know? And of course I'm talking about Black Sabbath, Iron Maiden, and Metallica. I think I've seen them mentioned on, you know, every single list that I've watched. So let's start at the beginning with Black Sabbath. One of my favorite albums by them, of course, Master of Reality. Fucking love this album. This, I mean, perfect all the way through. Except, I think Solitude is a bit overrated. It's a bit long, and I don't think it necessarily treads that much new ground for Black Sabbath. Like, Planet Caravan is one of my favorite songs by Black Sabbath, and this feels like a Planet Caravan part 2, essentially. So it's not like doing anything super interesting. It's got the same laid-back atmosphere, except without like the more psychedelic parts of Planet Caravan, which is why it's in my top 3 favorite Black Sabbath songs. And I just kind of think it did not need to be as long, and it kind of just slows down the momentum of this album. And it barely keeps this album from being my favorite Black Sabbath album. So, number 1. Number 2, Iron Maiden, as I said. Peace of Mind. Great fucking album, tons of bangers. Introduction of Nico McBrain on drums with the stellar Where Eagles Dare. And it keeps that momentum going for the majority of the album until it hits Quest for Fire. And stupid lyrics, kind of like an overly sung chorus, if that makes sense. Like, kind of Bruce is in there for too long, you know. Search for Quest of Fire. You know, it kind of just takes the momentum of this album, just brings it to a halt, really. After Still Life, which is a great song, it just... And Son of Steel, while not as bad as Quest for Fire, is not able to bring back that momentum. It's really not only until To Tame a Land that you're finally like, yes, you know. But at that point, it's the end of the album, so it really hurt Peace of Mind overall, to me. Alright, now on to the next one, Metallica. Very similar to the Quest for Fire take. I'm talking about Ride the Lightning. It's just hit after hit with great momentum. And then Escape comes on after the intense, like, very hardcore-esque Trapped Under Ice. And that song just is not necessarily memorable, really, at all. It's like a weird mid-pace song. The chorus is not that interesting, and it kind of just falls flat in comparison to the rest of the album. And then Creeping Death comes on, and you're like, what's Escape? You know? You just forget it was even there. It just blends in so seamlessly with either Trapped Under Ice or Creeping Death that you just don't even think about it at all when thinking about this album. So, obvious pick, I think, but, you know, still. Alright. Now, not necessarily fully metal, but metal adjacent. These next ones are all like that. Faith No More with their album, The Real Thing. Love this fucking album. And this probably has some of their best, most commercial moments on it. But it is their absolute most commercial moment that I dislike on this album. Of course, I'm talking about their one-hit wonder, Epic. Song's been played into the ground, basically. I've heard it too many times. It really is not that interesting of a song to begin with, and it's probably about a minute or two too long, if I were to be honest. I mean, believe me, if it comes on and there's other people in the room, I'm not gonna hit skip. But if it's just me, I'm hitting skip and I'm going right into Falling to Pieces. A commercial song which has not worn out its welcome somehow. Alright. After that, I'm going to a Dax Riggs of Acid Bath side project. This is Agents of Oblivion. Probably one of my favorite albums ever. one of the most emotionally impactful albums ever to me. I mean, Innsmouth, Phantom Green, The Hangman's Daughter, that song is perfect. Wither, so many great tracks on here, and it just flows so well of, you know, being like kind of southern fried rock track, super deep, you know, kind of slow, emotionally impactful track, and then it's just got that perfect back and forth throughout it. And then it ends on Big Black Backwards. There's really nothing memorable about it, except the soundbite, which I should probably do some research into seeing like what the soundbite is of. But it's, from my ears, it's just like a couple kids talking about how they killed a rabbit, and they're talking some serious shit. And it's like 3 or 4 minutes of this 7-minute song, and it really takes the emotional weight out of the rest of this album. So, because to me this is almost a perfect album, and it has an asterisk on that almost perfect, and it's because of Big Black Backwards. Alright. After that, this is not metal at all. This is Kate Bush, Hounds of Love. I love this album. The first half of this album is absolutely flawless. Running Up That Hill, the title track, The Big Sky, Cloud Busting, every single song on here of the first half is just perfect pop music. And then it gets to the second half of the album called The Ninth Wave. And it's good, but it is so fucking weird. It is so weird. It kind of loses me. And I am talking about a little bit of these 3 tracks: Under Ice, Waking the Witch, and Watching You Without Me. It's like, especially Waking the Witch, because it's got like these weird vocal effects on Kate's vocals, and it just doesn't really make any sense, and it kind of loses me a little bit, you know? And then same with Under Ice is like that too. But then once we get back to Jig of Life, track 10, boom, it's another banger of just fun, catchy, but still like emotionally deep song. And then same, of course, with Hello Earth, which is just a great ballad-esque kind of track. But almost perfect album, besides those weird things going on in Under Ice and Waking the Witch. Speaking of almost perfect albums, this one is so close to being just perfect. Classic 5 out of 5, nothing wrong with it. You know, every single track's a banger, except 2 songs. I mean, and 2 out of 15 ain't bad. This is a long fucking album. And so 2 out of 15, you know, ain't bad. But these 2 are just total misses, you know? I'm talking about Half and a little bit of Head Down. It's where they were like trying to incorporate some Middle Eastern kind of influences in Chris Cornell's vocals, which, you know, they're just usually amazing and so powerful. They're just like intentionally sound neutered on those tracks, and I guess I'm missing what they were trying to go for, especially with Half. I just don't get what the purpose of that track is within the context of the album. But I don't know. That's nitpicking for sure on this classic of a record. And then back into some more metal territory. We're talking Neurosis with their album Through Silver in Blood. And I'm talking about, ideally, their track Purify. It's just one of those tracks where it's too slow, you know? Like, the title track that opens up the album and I are just total slugfest. They're just bangers, you know, of the crazy claustrophobic, intense post-metal that these guys were offering during this release. And then Purify kind of just comes in and puts the brakes on it. And yeah, it's kind of a dull song just overall, especially when Locust Star comes back right after that and just blows the whole thing out of the water, really. I mean, then later on in the album, the same thing. It keeps going with Aeon and Enclosure and Flame just being killer. So, if Purify was not on here, I think the album overall would be a lot stronger. And then this is a little bit of cheating with Blood Mountain, but there's multiple songs I want to talk about here. So Blood Mountain kind of suffers from being a little bit too long with a little bit too many tracks. And Blood Mountain by Mastodon, of course. But there's two different types of tracks here that pop up in succession of each other. They're not even distributed throughout the album. They're just back to back. I'm talking about Circle of Sasquatch and Blade Catcher, track 5 and 6. And then the last three tracks, This Mortal Soil, Siberian Divide, and Pendulous Skin. So, Circle of Sasquatch and Blade Catcher are like these really crazy, intense, psychedelic trips, really. Like really fat, a lot more fast paced, a lot more just off the wall, avant-garde kind of noises and stuff going on in there. And back to back, they kind of take the momentum out of the album, you know, from that tracks like Sleeping Giant and Crystal Skull really built up, you know? So they do it, so the momentum is lost a little bit there, but then of course, you know, Colony of the Birchmen and Hunters of the Sky really, they capture you again. You're back after those tracks. But then, at the very end of the album, these three tracks are almost like the same in succession. This Mortal Soil, Siberian Divide, and Pendulous Skin are all slow, very psychedelic, beautiful atmosphere. They're all, honestly, individually, they're all great songs, but it's just back to back to back. In the context of this album, you're just left with like a total like snooze fest to end on. And I think Blood Mountain would be a lot better if they just fixed the track listing or cut one or two of these songs. But because they didn't, it's one of my least favorite Mastodon albums. Finally, I want to talk about Down Nola. This is a perfect album all the way through except for the song Swan Song. Now that, it just doesn't, the songwriting of that song doesn't stand out when compared to every single other song on this album. Every single song is just riff central, perfect riff after perfect riff. And then Swan Song is kind of like a little bit slower. It comes off a little more boring, like a watered down version of one of the other songs that you've already heard, like, you know, Losing All or Hail the Leaf. And I think it has the unfortunate luck of being the song before Bury Me in Smoke, the best song on the fucking album, you know? Like, for me to fix it, they should have just gone with Stone the Crow into Pray for the Locust, which is like their little 50-second interlude, which is a nice breath of fresh air before, boom, Bury Me in Smoke just pummels you into oblivion. But there you go. Those are your 10 albums that have one terrible or just subpar song on it. Thanks for watching. Fun to join into the thread. Cheers to whoever came up with it. And cheers.